How about some questions from the audience? Hopefully ones we can find to disagree on. We've been awfully gentlemanly up here so far. No takers. You know, one of the things that Jacques said that I thought was important is that the doom and gloom in the press about venture capital disappearing in Canada, I think did have an impact on entrepreneurs because they started to believe that there wasn't capital available. But Antoine's point I also agree with, which is that there was probably 5 times more capital in venture funds in our country than we needed. And so I think it's actually a healthy correction. But I do worry more about the impact it's going to have on the entrepreneurial psychology.
I would love to take that one on. I remember sitting a while back in my office with an entrepreneur complaining about how difficult fundraising was, how difficult it was to raise money. And the question was, you know, what's the value of VCs if VCs have to do all this due diligence? What value do you bring to the table? And at that point, I just said, okay, hang on, time out. Take off my entrepreneur hat. Take off my VC hat. I'm going to put on my entrepreneur hat. And I looked at him and said, did you think for 1 second that raising money is supposed to be easy? We invest pension funds, money from pension funds. And by the way, every time we write a check, I write a check. My partners write a check. There's principal money involved in the equation here. And guess what? This is about wealth creation. This is not about easy money. And I think the biggest sin that we've seen in the last 12 years is easy capital. When capital has no cost, then you deploy far too much of it and the results suffer. Capital is supposed to be scarce. It's supposed to be expensive. It represents hard-earned savings that people have made. And as a result of it, it deserves to be rewarded with superior returns, especially in the venture asset category. So I think the venture capital industry has suffered tremendously from having too much capital and in the end returning very pitiful results by forgetting the discipline that capital is supposed to be expensive. So on that topic, the angel model has an advantage. The weakness of the angel model has always been that the value of the due diligence is always a value of the quality of the networks to validate what an entrepreneur comes to the table with. And yes, even at the angel level, it should be doubly hard because it's that much earlier. The value of the angel model is that it is principal capital. And I don't know about everybody in the room here, but I don't recall making an easy buck in my life. If I'm going to write a check, guess what? I expect to make something out of it. So yes, it will be difficult. And the test of an entrepreneur starts fundamentally with the ability to understand why anybody in their right mind would do the insane act of buying from a startup with no track record for state-of-the-art technology. Guess what? It ain't easy. Capital should be expensive. And I think this is where the angel model, especially backed by people with entrepreneurial scar tissue and deep networks to increase the validation of a thesis pursued by an entrepreneur is of incredible value. The challenge after this, and this was said on a previous panel, the challenge after this comes to something structural we've seen in the venture industry, which is a fundamental misalignment between the venture model and the angel model. Angels get burnt. Usually angels get burnt. If I look back at the money I lost as an angel, I deserve to lose that money. I did not understand the system. I think it is incumbent upon both angels and VCs to really understand the discipline of what the model is based on, to stick to that discipline and realize that fundamentally capital, when it is expansive and it is smart, it is networked, does return superior returns.
Well said.
To follow up on what Antoine said about alignment of VC versus angel, I'd be curious to understand, not only relative dollars but returns. I think would be interesting, because in the venture world, I was at breakfast with some of the folks from RBC who had these stats together that the top 1% of venture firms are responsible for 41% of the returns. The top 25% are responsible for 104% of the returns. So 75% of funds aren't returning capital to their LP base. So that's kind of a fundamental problem. But I think the other thing that we see a lot of companies, and we make a lot of investments. We see thousands of companies a year will make 25 plus investments a year. Most of them are with angels, so we're pretty sensitive to the scarcity or surplus of angel capital. And when the market crashed last year, angel dried up. It was not there. No one felt rich. No one was writing the checks. Now things have turned around. We're seeing for the first time in a long time, hot deals are being wildly oversubscribed. We have one of our portfolio companies today that last week had partner meetings after a few weeks of preparation, and today I learned they had 6 term sheets on there, that landed, and angel rounds being doubly oversubscribed, angel allocations being doubly subscribed. I think maybe the original question was about how that perception of when the dollars are flowing versus when they pull back, does that have an impact on entrepreneurs? I think it's hard regardless, but I think those are some of the things that they see and feel.
At the same time, when it was my first company, when I created it, financing venture capital in Canada didn't exist. I'm not that old, but it was in 1980. And what were we doing at the time? It was beg, borrow, and steal. And we would convince a customer that he should buy our product that didn't exist, obviously. And we created it and started it. So it's not it has for me no relationship with the timing of the market in itself. If you really believe in what you're doing, if you have something brilliant, you're going to get something to make it work somehow. Going back to your point on the alignment of the GPs and the angel, I would put it in a broader scope of the complete alignment between the entrepreneur, the angel, the GPs and funds, and the LPs. All of that over the last 30, 40 years has evolved in crazy ways. And today, when you look at the picture, there's no alignment whatsoever. When I look at it from the point of view of an LP now into GPs, that is beginning to be, it's not beginning, it is a business where management fees are so high that the GPs are making lots of money without any return at all. And they have not given any return, as we mentioned, 75% of them have not given returns. And these must be the 75% I've never met, because everyone I meet is first quartile. So